Hi, how's it going? Matt here from SuperCard, thanks for tuning in. Today what I'm going to be doing is showing you footage of how I assembled and fitted the two front fenders to the Gallardo. Getting these two onto the car was really good because I could start to see the external shape and form and bodywork of the car coming together. So yeah, let's get started. So this is what one of the finished front guards looks like. I'll build two of course, but I'll just show you the process for building one in this video. Here's a quick look at the plans that I've created for the front guards. And this will be the start or foundation piece, and then these other parts will build on top of that. I've made a separate file with plans for the outer body panels and some separate tab strips. I've printed all the plans on my regular A4 black and white printer, and I'll use those prints as a guide to cut out all these separate parts for the front two guards by hand, out of various materials. Let's get started on the assembly. So this is the start or foundation piece that I mentioned, and it's cut from 5mm thick foam core board sheet. The very first thing to do is glue this 1000 GSM board part on the end like this. And this part will give the trailing edge of the guard some height and form. Once that's dried, I can fit several small parts which I've cut out of 1000 GSM cardboard. Each one has a tab on the bottom, and they simply push into a slot that I've cut on the top surface of the foam board foundation piece. And these pieces will help me to create the correct curvature of the guard's outer skin, as you'll see shortly. Next I'll glue this piece on, and this one is super important as it defines the profile and position of the front wheel arch. I've cut a series of notches into it, and they help me locate the wheel arch piece relative to the rest of the structure. There's a tab and slot in the lower rear section of the guard structure, which I'll glue together like this, and that gives some strength and shape to that part of the guard. Now there are several more cardboard standoff parts to push into place like so, including this larger one towards the front of the guard. These will finish defining the overall shape of the guard structure and allow the forward half of the wheel arch piece to be supported. Now, the key thing here is to make sure the parts are pressed into the base foam core board part all the way. There's another foam board part to be glued over the top of the front lower section of the guard structure. I've cut two large rectangular slots into this part, and there are two tabs on each side of the front bumper which fit into these slots, holding the front bumper in place. Now at this stage I'm going to put a bend in the foundation board part. It bends at a point where I've partially cut the foam, but not all the way through. And the bend allows the top of the three remaining standoff parts to align properly with the wheel arch.
Let's go bounce.
Next I'll glue another cardboard part into place like this. It slots into place pretty snugly, and this piece adds some overall rigidity to the structure and will provide a good surface for me to glue the top of the outer body panel to. I'm being really careful to make sure that it's pushed all the way into the right spot, because once the glue is dry, I can't move it and I can't change it. So that pretty much finishes up the underlying structure of the guard. The last thing to do is go around with my PVA glue and just reinforce all the places where parts connect. If this was a real car, I'd essentially be welding up the seams. Once the outer body panel skin is fitted, you won't see any of this, so it doesn't really have to look too perfect. Now I'm going to start prepping the outer body skin for the guard. The first step is to glue a tab strip along the back of the outer skin's top edge. The tab strip is cut from 285 GSM black paper, and the outer skin itself is cut from a sheet of shiny black metallic foil board. I'll use a book and some weights to make sure the two parts dry nice and flat. This is the tab strip which will be glued along the rear lower edge of the outer skin. None of this tab strip will be seen, so I've just made it from ordinary white printed paper. There is a slight chance that some of this part might be visible between outer body skin panels, so I'll give the centre section of the part a quick go over with black pen just in case. Now the tab strip is ready to be glued onto the rear side of the wheel arch area.
Give you a good time. Give you a good. Give you a good time. Give you a good.
So the tricky part here is to make sure it's positioned just right. Again, I'll use my book and weights just to make sure it dries flat. Once it's dry, the outer body skin is ready to be attached to the guard's frame assembly. I'm going to start at the top edge of the guard, fold then glue every second or every other small tab along the top inner edge of the guard. So I just fold, glue, hold and let dry each tab one by one at a time, until I work my way all the way over to the rear edge where the last one's a little bit larger like this. Now I can repeat the process for the tabs which follow around the wheel arch area, but this time I'll start kind of in the center of the wheel arch area and kind of work backwards and forwards each way from there, just gluing a few tabs at a time until they're done. After that, I'll glue a finishing piece over the wheel arch area that I've cut from shiny black metallic foil board, and that covers and hides the tab strip there, and it makes the outer skin look a bit more like one seamless piece.
Open eye, feel the waves cut through me.
The key here is to make sure it lines up nicely with the main outer skin piece, which can be a bit tricky because the wheel arch area has like curved lines and angled surfaces in multiple directions.
Hold tight, hold tight, hold tight. Dripping lights paint the skies, all because of you. Dripping lights paint the skies, only you can make me move. You can make me move. Can make me move.
Finally, I have one last part which I've cut from shiny black metallic foil board. It's going to run along the top of the guard and down towards the front of the car. So I'll fold down those unused tabs from the first tab strip that I put on earlier and glue the piece onto those tabs. And there we have it, one finished guard ready to fit to the car.
Not a lie, make it last forever. Stop in time. Yeah,
So the process, of course, is exactly the same for the other guard, which I won't show here, but let's just get straight to fitting them to the car. So I'll remove the front wheelhouse or fender liner, which I made a couple of videos ago, and then offer up the guard to the car. I have two tabs at the bottom of the guard, so one kind of under the front of the guard and one kind of near the back of the guard, as well as a series of tabs along the top of the front subframe. It's just a matter of lining them all up and fitting them into place carefully. And once all the tabs are pushed into place, the guard fits pretty securely.
can make me move. Can make me move. Can make me.
And I'll refit the fender liner there and I'm all done. Nice. So that's the fenders fitted to the car. They turned out really good, happy with those. Next video, or next week, I'll be assembling and fitting the two headlights for the car. I don't know if you've seen like what Gallardo headlights look like, but they're these incredible pieces of sculpture and they're really detailed. Like working out how I was going to create those for the model was a bit of a design challenge for sure, but I think they turned out really good. So make sure you check out that video. Yeah, and otherwise, if you're working on a project like this yourself, I'd love to see some photos. You can email me at matt@supercardmodels.com, or you can just DM me on Instagram. That would be amazing. Yeah, but thanks for checking out the video. I'll see you next week.